This is Pet Life Radio. Let's talk pets.
The views expressed by guests on this program do not necessarily represent the views of the host or owners of the Doggy Diva show and do not necessarily constitute endorsement of products. Medical information discussed by guests on this program are those of the guests and is only for informational purposes and should not replace medical advice by your local veterinarian professional.
Hi, this is Susan Marie from the Doggy Diva show. This week, celebrating World Vet Day and Hairball Awareness Day. Then, bringing animals and their people from crisis to care, and a thriller with dogs and the Alaskan wilderness. That's what's on our show this week. Let's get to it.
Hey, did you hear that? What is that? It's the bark heard round the world. The Doggy Diva show. Here's Susan Marie.
Hi, welcome to the Doggy Diva show, the show for animal lovers. I'm your host, Susan Marie, and as always, I'm joined by my canine co-hosts, the Doggy Divas themselves, Francesca, Coco, and our newest little diva, Miss Olive. Miss Olive is the cute little Italian Greyhound rescue in the picture with the microphone. Thank you for joining us today as we bring the experts in the pet and animal world right to you. Email us at doggydivashow@aol.com. That's DOGGYDIVA show@aol.com. We love hearing from you. So go grab a cup of coffee and your pet's favorite treat, and we'll be back in just a moment.
Hey, cat people. Litter box smells always on your mind? Think about your cat, not the box, with World's Best Cat Litter, the litter that delivers big odor control in a tiny package. World's Best Cat Litter harnesses the concentrated power of corn to trap odors deep inside the litter. Ready to knock out smells and use less litter? Find World's Best Cat Litter at Target, Walmart, and in your local grocery and pet stores.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back, everyone. I have with me Monica Leighton. She is the owner of Professional Pet Sitting with our Pet Tip of the Week. Now, Monica, today is a very important day. It's World Veterinary Day, and just yesterday was Hairball Awareness Day. Can you give us any tips or any information on these important days?
Absolutely. So World Veterinary Day is just a reminder to everybody how important it is for your pets to have veterinary care. And a lot of people, kind of correspond that with vaccines or illness. And there's so much more to veterinary care than that. An annual physical is one of the most vital things you can do for your pet. Oftentimes, the vaccines, go along with that, but it's not the most important thing. You should really have your vet seen or have your pet seen by a vet, to have the heart listened to look at the teeth, look at the eyes, check the ears, check them over for lumps and bumps and masses, anything that doesn't feel right. They should palpate the stomach, see how that feels, making sure they're not feeling any masses internally. All of that is so important to the health and the longevity of our pets. Basic prevention as far as veterinary care can add years onto your pet's life. So that's why I always, talk to people that, when you come in for your annual, it's not just about vaccines. And that's what a lot of us kind of, look at it as. It's really, having that veterinarian look over your pet, giving it a good physical, just like you and I need. They need the same thing to make sure that they stay healthy. And as far as our feline friends, yesterday, of course, was National Hairball Awareness Day. We all love those hairballs. They're always fun, especially when you don't see them and you stumble onto them in the middle of the night. That's what my cats like to do for me. But any cat can have hairball issues. Doesn't necessarily have to be long breed. It can be a short breed. Any cat that's, going to be grooming themselves, which they all do, can have the potential for having hairball issues. So a couple tips for that. Fiber. Fiber is one of those glorious things that work both ways. If they are having loose stool, you can give them fiber to firm it up. If they've got harder stool, you can give them fiber to help push it through. It's one of those things that, have multiple successes with. But hairballs are another one. If you can help push that hair through before it gets stuck, then they're not bringing it back up. So for example, a lot of times pets can vomit after they eat, and that's not always a sign of food issues, even though they'll vomit the food. A lot of times it can be that they've groomed so much that they have a lot of hair in the stomach, and the food really doesn't have any place to go because it's full of the hair and it hasn't been passed through the intestinal tract yet. So that can also be a sign of hairballs. They've got some great preventions out there. They have food. They have like a Royal Canin makes a GI fiber response, which is really good for which is good for hairballs. Science Diet makes a hairball formula. They also have the little liquids that you can give, like the laxatones and the hairball preps. They also have treats that are really easy to give and palatable. So there's so many great things you can do out there to help with that. But anytime you have a situation to where the pet can become anxious, always know that you may have an increase in hairballs, because one of the signs of a cat becoming nervous is they'll excessively groom. So let's say they, take a trip in a carrier. You have guests over, you have people in the house, or you're moving, or you're simply changing furniture around, having the carpets cleaned, anything to where you may have like a worker in the house, anything that changes it up. Cats don't always do well with change. So that can increase the anxiety, and in increasing the anxiety can result in excessive grooming. So if you have any of those changings and you are seeing a bit of vomiting, it may be time to, start with some hairball items. And if that doesn't work, then see your veterinarian.
Well, thank you very much, because those are very important things to know. Having had cats, I know that we used to use that laxatone a lot, and we use some of the prescribed food too, because that helped a lot, because I had long hair cats as well as short hair cats. And of course, World Veterinary Day, we love that. So April 27th, Hairball Awareness Day, April 28th, World Veterinarian Day. And Monica, I thank you for bringing these to our attention.
Thank you so much. Have a wonderful week.
Coming up, new ways to bring animals and people from crisis to care. Stay tuned.
We'd like to thank our sponsor for this episode, Rover.com. Rover, the dog people. It's the largest network of 5-star pet sitters and dog walkers in North America. If you have dogs, and like me, you're working during the day and can't get home to walk your fur babies, you can just use the Rover app on your Android or iPhone and find a 5-star dog walker. Book them, favorite them, and even pay them all through the app. And I know if I'm going away for the weekend or even taking a 5-day cruise, I can use the same Rover app to book a pet sitter. By using Rover, my dog walker or pet sitter is trusted, background checked, and is backed by Rover's premium insurance and 24/7 support. And if my dog and I want to meet my pet sitter or dog walker beforehand, we can do that too with a free meet and greet. I personally like that I can get pictures of my dog, a map of her walk, and updates right on the app. It's so cool. We have a special offer for Pet Life Radio listeners too. Get $25 off your first booking by going to rover.com/Pet Life Radio. Pet Life Radio is all one word, and use the promo code Pet Life Radio. So once again, go to rover.com/Pet Life Radio. Pet Life Radio is all one word, and use promo code Pet Life Radio. 3 words for the code, and get $25 off your first booking. It's a pawsome deal.
Let's talk pets
Let's talk pets
on Pet Life Radio.
Pet Life Radio.
PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Doggy Diva Show. We would like to introduce you to a national animal welfare organization based in Sacramento, California, that offers many life-saving programs. Since 1987, Red Rover has focused on bringing animals out of crisis and strengthening the human-animal bond through emergency sheltering, disaster relief services, financial assistance, education, and more. We are honored to have with us today the president and CEO of Red Rover, Nicole Forsythe. Welcome to the Doggy Diva Show, Nicole.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, it's our pleasure. What can you tell us about Red Rover?
A lot of people like to think of us as the American Red Cross for animals. So one of our biggest programs helps shelter animals during natural disasters or any time a large number of animals are in crisis and need that emergency temporary sheltering. So we have 4,000 volunteers all over the country. Wow. We would not be able to do what we do without volunteers, and they are very specifically trained in that sheltering and caring for animals that are in very stressful situations. So they travel all over the country and sometimes in Canada as well. And they just provide, hands-on labor, setting up a shelter, and then just taking care of those animals with some really special, tender, loving care. That's our biggest program.
It's great to know that you have this Red Rover Readers program that was created to help children build empathy skills towards animals. Can you tell us a little bit more about that program?
Sure. One of the great things about Red Rover is we're there to help in immediate crisis. So when animals are in these situations like a natural disaster or a puppy mill seizure or, other kinds of mass cruelty or abuse. But we also really want to try to get at the root of neglect and abuse in the first place. And there's a lot of research showing that empathy can really prevent abuse and violence in the first place. So our program trains teachers and volunteers and humane educators how to go into schools and using books that show animal behavior, help children understand animal behavior so that they can develop empathy for them. So if they can't really tell what emotions an animal has, it's impossible to have empathy. So we're really getting to the root of where we feel like there's a lot of abuse issues where people kids are just not aware that animals have these emotions. And so train them really early to be able to see that is a great way to prevent abuse and neglect in the first place.
And that's so important. And I'm a firm believer that teaching the children, and they bring that home to their family and their parents, and that's how these things start. I think it's so wonderful about your programs. Now, how could someone bring the Red Rover Readers program to their school?
We have online training for teachers, so it's a pretty easy way to get involved. We can also train an entire school. We have found that, but we primarily target 3rd and 4th grade. So if there's an elementary school that really wants to train their entire school, it's a great way for the teachers to kind of help each other out, and it tends to get used more when the whole school adopts it. So we can bring it to an entire school. We do professional development trainings for teachers. But if there's just one teacher who wants to take it, so, if someone listening knows a teacher and they're teaching elementary school, super easy to take the online course. People can learn more about the course on our website, redrover.org, and, how to sign up. And then once they've taken the class, they get free curriculum. They're told which books work really well. And then they just can implement it and see some pretty big changes in the kids' attitudes towards animals.
You also have relief that helps domestic violence survivors escape dangerous situations with their pets. Now, how are you expanding that program to make it even more accessible for shelters, people, and their pets?
Yeah, so we've got a lot of different ways that someone who is trying to escape domestic violence can leave with their pets. We're definitely finding it's a huge barrier for people to not leave, and then sometimes the animals themselves become victims of the abuse. So we want to make sure they can leave, together. So we have emergency grants where people can just immediately leave and and have their pet go to a boarding facility. But we're also working with domestic violence shelters to help them build resources in their community for these pets. So whether it's an on-site facility at their actual shelter, which is ideal because you want them, to be close by if at all possible. But if they can't build an on-site facility, we've started to expand the grants that we can give to these domestic violence advocates so that they can maybe build an off-site shelter or maybe develop a foster program or a more consistent program with a boarding facility or a veterinary clinic or an animal shelter, so whatever, making it a little bit more flexible based on the needs of a specific community. So we're pretty excited. We've increased the amount of those grants. there's just a lot more interest in making sure these pets are helped. So that's exciting to see this change across the country. And our goal is to get all 50 states to have an on-site shelter that accepts pets. And we've got 9 states left to go. So.
Wow, that's what I was just going to ask. Does every state have a domestic violence shelter that can house animals with their owners? It's so important because the pets are a part of the family.
They are. And we've got a really easy website for anyone to recommend. So that's called safeplaceforpets.org. And people can go to this website, type in the zip code, and then find what resources are available in their community for bringing pets to, if it's an emergency, domestic violence.
Last year, we had a highly impactful year of natural disasters across the country. We're in Florida. We were impacted by it. All across the country was impacted by all of these natural disasters. Can you tell us about your Red Rover Responders program?
Sure. Yes, we had a very active year last year between the hurricanes, Harvey and Irma and Maria. We were involved in all of those. And so what we typically do is we respond at the request of a community. So depending on what their needs are, we work with a national organization that's a coalition of all the different animal welfare groups that do animals in disasters. So we also work with them to make sure we coordinate our efforts. And then our volunteers go to that area, and they're all different. So, for example, in the case of Hurricane Harvey, they had the human evacuation shelter set up, and we were able to set up the animal shelter right next to the human evacuation center so the people could come and visit. And the animals that we helped in that particular shelter were all owned animals, so we knew who their owners were, and they were nearby, which was nice. And it provided an incredible, service to them to not have to worry about their pets when they were dealing with such a horrific situation. So that's kind of classic case of what we do in a natural disaster, but everyone is different. Sometimes we work with an animal shelter that might be rescuing the animals, but we don't necessarily, we don't do the rescuing like off the street. We just provide that sheltering once they come into a place.
Now, you mentioned volunteers. How can someone become a volunteer for the program?
At our website, redrover.org, there's a page about the Red Rover Responders program, and it has lots of details about, what to expect as a Red Rover Responders volunteer, and signing up to get email alerts to find out when there's a training in your area is a great way to, to find out. We can also set up a Responders volunteer training workshop in a local community if there's enough interest. So that's another way to do it. But those are in-person trainings. So that is something people have to kind of sign up and find out when there's going to be one close to them.
Well, and we're just getting ready to enter hurricane season. So down here, I hope that people do volunteer for the program. For the listeners who may want to make donations, you do so much. You are doing a lot across the board for animals and humans. Can you let the listeners know where they can go to make donations to Red Rover?
Sure. redrover.org, super easy. Monthly donations are a fantastic way to provide that sustainable, ongoing support. And it minimizes our costs for printing, and everyone can feel like, their money is really going directly to where it matters the most. So when people go to our website, we've got a big donation button. So super easy, and monthly donating is like an incredible way to provide that ongoing support.
So for the listeners who want to learn more about you, who want to learn more about Red Rover, where can they go?
redrover.org, and also we're involved in pretty much every social media channel. So if people want to just get to know us a little bit better, we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, Pinterest, YouTube. People can check out the videos of our work. And it's a wonderful way to get to know us as well through that social media.
Well, I'm so glad that we got to let the listeners learn about your organization. It's such a phenomenal organization. You touch so many aspects of life. I want to thank you, Nicole, for being our guest today. And I want to also thank you for all that you're doing for the animals and that human-animal bond. It's through your emergency shelters, your disaster relief, the financial assistance, and the education out there. You're doing so much. I really hope the listeners go to redrover.org and learn more about you, because what you're doing is absolutely phenomenal. And I want to thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. We'll be back in just a moment. Hi, Doggy Diva Show listeners. Susan Marie here to take just a half a minute to let you know how much we appreciate your being with us every week to hear great dog tips you can use with your pet, some great stories about rescues, fostering, and some heartwarming stories about second chances for pets who are now in loving forever homes. Be sure to go to our website, thedoggydiva.com, to see pictures of Miss Olive and other dogs we talk about on the show and get to know us a little better. That's thedoggydiva.com, DOGGY. We appreciate your feedback too. Okay, let's get back to the show. Coming up, a haunting thriller about dogs in the Alaskan wilderness. Stay tuned.
When Helen Brown ran away to New York City 5 years ago, she had no idea that a homeless cat with a punk rock haircut and enough catitude to light up the Empire State Building would be the one to teach her the true meaning of love and a forever home. In the tradition of her internationally best-selling memoir, Cleo, Helen Brown's Bono, the amazing story of a rescue cat who inspired a community, is a heartwarming true story about a woman without an anchor, a homeless cat without much hope, and finding a forever home in the city that never sleeps. Modern Cat magazine calls Bono an uplifting tale about how everyone deserves love and a second chance. Bono by Helen Brown is on sale now everywhere.
Does your dog itch, scratch, stink, or shed like crazy? Come to Dynavite for help.
Order a 90-day supply of Dynavite.
Everything we tried failed except the Dynavite.
Pick up 2 bottles of Super Mega Fish Oil.
Get the 3rd bottle free. Packed with omega-3, DHA, and EPA fatty acids.
Super Mega is great for your dog's immune system, healthy skin, and soft, shiny fur.
Dogs love it. Try Super Omega Fish Oil.
Buy 2, get 1 free.
At Dynavite.com.
DINOVITE.com.
Let's Talk Pets on PetLifeRadio.com.
Welcome back, everyone, to the Doggy Diva Show. If you are looking for an electrifying thriller set in the beauty of the Alaskan wilderness, have we got the book for you. This author's an intriguing debut novel, The Wild Inside, takes the reader into the world of dog sled racing, following a young woman who thrives off hunting and training her dogs who only feel safe in the untamed Alaskan wilderness. But everything changes one day, and the questions and the safety of her family begins to arise as strangers begin to appear in her small Alaska town. And all I can say, Jamey, is wow. This was such a great book, and we have with us today the author of The Wild Inside, Jamey Bradbury. Welcome to the Doggy Diva Show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
It's our pleasure. I absolutely love this book. It was like a page turner. I couldn't put it down. People are probably going to be saying, dog sledding? What, because this is like something new to like dog people such as myself, but I found it very, very interesting, and the level of compassion and hard work, preparation that goes into it is amazing. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about yourself? Also, the Iditarod, which is the race. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, sure. So I'll start by, like you said, telling you a little bit about myself. I live in Alaska, but I'm not from Alaska. I grew up in the Midwest in Illinois, and I came up to Alaska as an AmeriCorps volunteer, which is sort of like Peace Corps, except it's all is in the United States. I thought I was going to come up to Alaska for just 9 months and then move on, but I fell in love with the place, and here I am 16 years later. And one of the things I fell in love with was the Iditarod dog sled race. As you said, it's the longest sled dog race in Alaska. It's a little over 900 miles, although we like to say it's 1,049 miles because we like being the 49th state. And yeah, it's just a phenomenal event. I mean, anywhere between 40 to 70 mushers compete every year with teams of 16 dogs each. And they are out in the wilderness of Alaska going from Anchorage to Nome over the course of anywhere between 9 to 15, 16 days,
kind of unsupported. I mean, they're basically out there on their own, except at the checkpoints that they stop by. And yeah, it's just them and their dogs running across Alaska.
Have you ever done one?
I have not. I'm not a racer by any means. I don't even have a dog.
Well, let me tell you, you described, and it's interesting because I think that when I thought about, the dog sledding, I thought of it more as like kind of like a group sport where everyone's just kind of working together and like doing their thing. This is really, as you said, you're kind of like isolated and you're going at your own pace, and the amount of preparation and the amount that you just need to do to survive while you're out there, it's absolutely mind-blowing when I was reading about it. I mean, the level of commitment that you have to have, and also the level of knowledge and endurance is absolutely phenomenal. And you covered it beautifully in your book, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah, researching this book, I was just blown away by the level of preparation, as you said, that these mushers have to go through. I mean, they start preparing for their races months and sometimes even years ahead of time. And I mean, it is not a sport for someone who doesn't plan well, let me tell you.
Absolutely. Because it's for everything from your food to your protection, your sleep. I mean, the dogs. And it's really interesting about like the stop points along the way. Now, I don't want to give out too much in the book, but I mean, there's just so much that is involved. It's like it takes a village. I mean, it's like such a big community event, and the way it's all laid out, you're really on your own, but yet you have support along the way, and the dogs have support along the way.
Yeah, that's one of the interesting parts, because when you're actually running the race, so much of it is such a lonely endeavor because you are out there with just you and your dogs for days on end. But as you said, it's also a community thing. I mean, so many mushers have handlers and family members and community members that really work hard to get them out on the trail and get, like you said, the drop bags delivered to the villages that they're going to be stopping by during the race, and preparing all the gear and equipment that they're going to need over the course of the race.
Well, and that in itself was, I learned a lot through your book on that, I was very impressed. I mean, by what goes into dog letting. I have a whole new respect for them. But I have to ask you this about your book, and the book is called The Wild Inside, as I said, but it's like a psychological thriller, kind of like a coming of age and a love story. I have to ask, what was your inspiration for this? Because it was genius.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, so the Iditarod was a big inspiration to me. I knew that I wanted to write something around the world of sled dog racing because, I mean, honestly, it's a good excuse to learn more about something I was interested in. But the idea for the book actually came from just an image I had in my head one day of a small house in the middle of the Alaskan wilderness, and its windows were lit up against the dark Alaskan winter. And I knew that inside the house there were two people waiting for a third person to come home, and that's all I had, really. So I thought about that image for a long time, and of course Alaska just inspired me with its great beauty and its isolation and its wilderness. And then finally, after I'd been thinking about this image for long enough, I read a book called Some of Your Blood by Theodore Sturgeon. It's a novella that was written in 1961, and it features a man, much like my character, who likes to hunt and trap and has an affinity for the wilderness. And as I was reading that book, I kept thinking, what if this book was told from a woman's perspective instead of a man's? And although my book isn't a direct retelling of Some of Your Blood, that was an inspiration. And so as I put all of those different elements together, this is what came out, the story of Tracy Petrikoff and her family and what happens in the woods one day when she's out hunting and trapping. And
it's so interesting because as you're reading along, and again, I don't want to give away too much, but as you're reading along, you're kind of thinking that this is where the story's going to go. This is where it is because her mom's there. It's this family set in the middle of this beautiful Alaskan wilderness in this home, and they have their routine, and she has a brother and a dad, and it's just like a regular story. And as you read on and on and on, it takes you into like this. I actually see like a movie coming to this. I mean, there's just so much that's in it. I mean, it was for me, and I read like a lot of mysteries. There was a lot of scary parts in it, but like good scary because it would take you to the next level. but it was like that thriller, and I like the psychological, thrillers sometimes because it keeps your mind going and you keep going, okay, what's next? I mean, I was going what's next to the end of the book. That's, that's how it like keeps the reader intrigued. Why don't we give like a quick overview of what The Wild Inside is about, kind of incorporating, I guess, all of those members without really, you don't want to give out too much, but it's like, oh God.
Sure. So The Wild Inside is the story of a young woman named Tracy Petrikoff, and she loves, more than anything in the world, she loves to trap and hunt, and she loves racing dogs. Her dad is an Iditarod champion and a musher, and she wants to follow in his footsteps. But she's also a bit of a loner. She likes to hang out in the woods, and she really prefers to be out there alone with no one else around. And one day, while she is hunting in the woods, she comes upon a stranger, and she's knocked unconscious. And the next day, she sees that same stranger emerge from the woods, bleeding from a knife wound, similar to the kind of wound her own knife might make. And so she has to ask herself, because she doesn't remember what happened, is she responsible for this man? Who is he? What does he want from her family? Why is he in the woods behind her house? As her family becomes entangled with this man, she's also training for her very first Iditarod. She's run several races in the past, and she's finally qualified for the Iditarod. And so as she's gearing up for that, as you said, another stranger happens upon the family, and they become entangled with this one as well, and they have to ask themselves, are these two people related? Do they know each other? Are we getting in too deep into their lives? Are they getting in too deep into ours? And so as these mysteries are kind of unfolding, Tracy's also remembering her mother who's died recently, and she's thinking about the secrets that her own mother took with her when she passed away, which do affect the family over the course of the novel.
And it's so true because all of that coming together, and the mom does play a big part in it, but she has passed away, but there's like so much with these characters coming in, how it just changes everything, and it just like, it's kind of like being on a sled ride. You just keep going. It's like, okay, go, take me, Jamey. And that's like where the book was. It was like being on my own. I did a try. But it's so good. And I want the listeners to be able to find out where they can learn more about you, and where they can learn more about The Wild Inside and where to purchase it.
Oh, sure. So my website is jameybradbury.com. That's JameyBradbury.com. I'm on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. You can follow The Wild Inside, especially on Facebook. I post quite a bit there. And then The Wild Inside itself is available at most major bookstores, and you can also find it on Amazon. But I would also encourage people to go to their favorite local independent bookstore and request it there, because that always helps. I
love independent bookstores. I'm an avid reader. I love them, and I have to tell you that the cover is as beautiful and as intriguing as your story.
Oh, I think my publisher did such a great job with the cover. I've done a couple signings, and I think people have come over just because they're intrigued by the cover, and so they start asking about it.
Oh, it's so beautiful. I mean, it would be what I would picture to be sitting. I'm sitting in my sled and there's my dog ahead of me and I could see it. I mean, that's what it looks like. It's like guiding me and taking me out there, but I'm sure deep down it means a whole lot more. But once you read the book, everyone, you're going to know what I'm talking about. But again, thank you so much for being a guest on our show today. And I want to thank you for bringing attention to the Iditarod, because I had no idea about it. I mean, I had an idea in my mind about how it went, but I never knew the level of commitment, and I never knew the amount of preparation and the amount of, it takes a village to come together to get this going. So I thank you for bringing that to our attention, and also for writing a book that's absolutely... It's thrilling, and I can't wait to your next one. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you. It was a pleasure to talk with you today. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. We would like to thank our guests this week. And also, as our Doggy Divas always say, please love your pets because they love you unconditionally. And please remember to adopt, foster, spay, neuter, and microchip. And as always, please have a great Diva week, everyone.
That's all for this episode of The Doggy Diva Show. To find out more, go to our website, thedoggydiva.com. Also, find us on our Facebook page, The Doggy Diva Show, and tell your fellow dog lovers about it. Don't miss Susan Marie, Miss Olive, and the Doggy Divas right here for the next episode. See you again soon.
Let's Talk Pets, every week on demand, only on PetLifeRadio.com.